reflect and reminding me of just how much suffering we're all going through.
The rate of suicide has doubled.
U.S. credit card debt at a record.
A shooting at the high school, have an officer down, shooter not in custody.
So with the world the way it is, more and more people suffering, and my own life-altering news hitting me all at once, I decided it was time to go even deeper with this work. Which is why I'm going on a journey to uncover the secrets of the world's leading bounce-back experts, scientists, and leaders, to show the world that we really can end the suffering, heal our past, and bounce back stronger than ever.
Being unsinkable to me means I must find a way up and out.
And you move from what if to no matter what, something has to change.
That I'm in charge of me, I'm going after a target that's way above where I'm at, and I'm not going to stop until I get there.
There's no reason to stay stuck. There's nothing that can take you down without your permission.
When you talk about being unsinkable, that you don't allow the circumstances or the adversities of life to define how you show up. That you realize that there's a power and a presence within yourself, that whatever life throws at you, and it's going to always throw a lot of stuff, that you have the capacity to overcome that.
So I am doing a shot, and I do a shot every single morning, and it's not the kind of shot that you think. Cheers. It's wheatgrass. It's really good. So this is little Billy, and he is 10 and a half years old, and he has been through it all. And he is the unsinkable Billy because he's had 6 surgeries. And even though he's had all these surgeries, he's bounced back every single time. And he's the best dog in the world. And you know what? Having a pet is a great way to elevate your vibrational frequency, believe it or not. Because he always puts a smile on my face, always. It's unconditional love. Every time I see him, it makes me happy. Say hello.
We all go through difficult times in our lives at some point. For me, I ended up being in a situation where I was $124,000 in debt. I was in a situation where we were losing our home due to foreclosure. I was in a situation where my now ex is an alcoholic. I even had health issues where I had a serious blood clot, and my whole life was falling apart. And I even got to a point where I wanted, for a moment anyway, I wanted to end my life. And the reason why is because I didn't want to feel the pain anymore. I just didn't want to be there. I climbed into bed and I rolled up into a little ball, and I started to cry and cry and cry and cry. And I just let it all out. And I was depressed and sad and stressed, worried. My heart was breaking. I just could not believe everything that was happening. And I allowed myself to experience it. I allowed myself to cry. I allowed myself to feel what I was feeling in that moment. And I got up from bed. I remember this as if it were yesterday. I got up from bed and walked over to the window. And I remember looking out the window and seeing this beautiful tree. And this is the message that was going through my mind, the thought that was coming through my mind at that point. I don't know why this is happening, but one thing I know for sure is something big, huge, amazing, something way bigger than me is going to come out of it. Because I'm not going through all this stuff for nothing. And it was like releasing it out there. And little did I know that the wheels were in motion as soon as I said that. And about 1 week later, I was climbing up the stairs. And when I got to the 5th step, I got a message. And it was one word, and it was unsinkable. And my mission on this planet is to help people bounce back from difficult times. I get it. I know, I understand why this is all happening. Wow, unsinkable. One of my favorite things is this pot. It's like a dream or a wish pot. This is where you have wishes or intentions, what you want to manifest in your life, and you put it in there, and then you keep it there, and then you say a little prayer, and then you hope for miracles to happen. So in the past, I would always have very practical things like I want to meet my soulmate or whatever it is, and I would put it in there, and I'd always have 4 or 5 things in there. As you can see, I only have 1 thing right now. It's an intention that I really wanted to put in writing of what I really want to hear and manifest. And it is, your mom is going to be fine. We've never seen this before. What we saw before is gone now. It is all cleared. We don't know what happened here. Your mom has experienced a miracle. I am first-generation Canadian. My parents are originally from Italy, and we came from very humble beginnings, and my father was a superintendent of a building, and my mom was a homemaker, and she took care of the family. And, you know, we didn't have very much growing up, but we still were happy. My parents did everything possible to make us happy, even though we didn't have very much.
Sorry, pause.
Yeah. Whose is that? Is that mine?
It has a pink case or a red case.
Oh my God, I'm so sorry, guys.
Yeah, no worries.
Maybe you should get up, sorry. Wow, that's a really big vibrating. I just hope it's not my mom. Who just called me, sorry. I don't know, how do I know if somebody called me and what's going on? Just need to make sure it's not my mom. Recent. Shoot, it was the hospital.
You can take it.
I missed the call though. I just don't know if they're gonna leave a message.
Do you want to call them back?
I can't because it says unknown. That's how I know it's a hospital.
Oh, okay. Do you know the number of the hospital?
I wouldn't even know who would be calling, what department or anything like that. So it's okay. They might leave a message, so if we could just wait a minute.
Yep, sure.
I just don't like having this distraction because we were in the zone, but it's okay.
Yeah.
They left a message.
Hey, Sonia, Ricotti, Mary Morrissey here, sending you love and blessings and hugs. Also to remind you that there is a love that death itself cannot touch or take away. And I know that is the love that you have with your mom and your mom with you. So feel that love reaching to you right now, pouring itself upon you and forever with you. Big hug. Bye-bye.
Hey, beautiful Sonia. You've been in my thoughts. I'm sending you a whole bunch of love and kisses here from LA. Love you, darling.
You are truly loved by so many people in this world, Sonia, and I just wanted to add my voice to the chorus and say I'm thinking of you and your family, and I'm hoping and praying that your heart is protected during this time. All my best.
Hi, Sonia. You've had an incredible year, and particularly the last 6 months. And I know you've plowed through with determined focus and absolute strength, and that's something I've always admired about you. But just remember in the months coming up as you deal with your dad and your own grief to take care of yourself, to be gentle with yourself. Remember you have people around you who care and want to help, so remember to lean on us.
Hey Sonia, it's Brian. I just want to say I am thinking of you, sending you lots of love, and I know you've got lots of wonderful memories that you have to treasure with your mother. I wish you well.
Hey, I just wanted to send you my big love, big heartfelt love. I've been thinking about you every day, and I just want you to know I am here for you. Love you, honey.
I think that we're all faced with great opportunities brilliantly disguised as impossible situations. And I think everybody has crisis or tragedy or loss or diagnosis. And I think those are the moments that define us.
If something isn't wrong in your life, you're not normal, right? And if something doesn't go wrong when everything is perfect, you're not normal. Every human being that I know has challenges, some small and some huge.
I think that if people understood it and begin to realize that they're more powerful than they give themselves credit for being, but unfortunately, the conversations that we have with ourselves for the most part are conversations of, I can't do this, I can't handle this. And that conversation feeds into a mindset that this is more powerful than I am. And many people give up.
And the question is, how do you have a comeback? How do you bounce back? And the answer is by making a decision to. That no matter what, I will overcome this.
No one can rob us of the ability to choose what we focus on. And we have within us, I believe, the ability to overcome and to rise above any situation.
And one of the things I know for sure is no matter how bad your situation is right now, no matter how much debt you have, no matter how unhappy you are, no matter how miserable things are for you now, the first key is to tell yourself, I'm willing to shift.
Where we're going today, we are going to see my really good friend, Shelly Ann. She is somebody that I've met a few years ago, and I met her at one of my events. She's actually one of the very first people that ever did my Unsinkable course, and we have become really good friends, and her story is so incredibly inspirational on so many levels that I really want you to meet her. She will blow you away. You just won't believe it. I can't wait to see them. I know. So you can feel the paintings. Oh my God. So I started with this one.
Wow.
It's a city painting?
Yeah.
So you can feel the 3D effect.
Yeah. That one there is spectacular as well. The one that has all trees.
There's actually birds in the...
Yes, right here.
Yeah. There's the birds here. You can feel them.
Mm-hmm. I can see them too.
Oh. Oh, I'm
I'm sorry. Yeah, but the birds actually represents freedom. And you can actually touch the paintings, huh?
I can see that. Wow.
So, and all
You know
of my
what
paintings you
amazes
can
me?
feel.
Is that you're able to touch everything like you can see. It's so spectacular.
So that's why nobody can come here and move anything. Because then we're in problem. You know, you have those moments in your life where your life just take an unexpected turn. And my moment came in April 7, 2008, while working in a lab. Around 2 p.m., it's when I was working in the fume hood, and the light in the fume hood blew. I got burned on my face, neck, chest, arms, and hands. So the layers of my skin start peeling. Even my eyes got severely damaged. And as a result, my vision became blurry. And then gradually over the next few weeks, turned into months, I began to lose my vision completely. And then I remember that one morning, I woke up and was in complete darkness. So keep in mind, at age 24, living life to the fullest, seeing everything, the beautiful world, and not having all that snatched away from you, not having your independence and your job, everything that you knew about life, now just snatched away. And in that moment, I had to make a choice on how I was going to live that life. I wanted to do something that was just crazily out of the box. And for me, that was painting. Because I knew it was going to be a challenge. And it was a mental shift for me. So Sonia, I've never done this for anyone before.
一睇 icon 媽咪幫佢笑咩？喂，咁，喂，執合意啦嘛？
That's so beautiful. In being able to go through a difficult time and still love your life with ease and grace and even joy, even in the midst of chaos and pain. And that's the key, is how do you do that? How do you become unsinkable?
I think what happens is when we're faced with trauma or crisis, or when we're faced with a difficult time, there's an event that sets that off. And the stronger the emotion that you have, or emotional reaction that you have from that outer experience in your life, the more altered you feel inside of you. And the more altered you feel inside of you causes you to narrow your focus on the cause. And the brain freezes an image and takes a snapshot, and that's called a memory. So the stronger the emotional quotient, the more you remember an experience, and we create long-term memories in that way. And so people tend to then think neurologically within the circuits of that past experience, and they think chemically within the boundaries of those emotions. And how we think and how we feel creates our state of being. So that defining moment then begins to alter the person's biology. The experience is embossed in the brain, and the emotion is conditioned in the body.
So basically, an event happens, and then I have a thought about that event. They shouldn't have done that. That's not fair. That's not right. Or this means they don't love me, or this means I'm unworthy of love, or any number of things people can come up with. And when you do that, then after that you feel sad, or you feel angry, or you feel hopeless, or resentful, or whatever it might be. And so by changing our thought about the event, we change our experience.
I think Viktor Frankl put it very well in Man's Search for Meaning. He spent the war years in a German concentration camp. And he realized while he was in there that regardless of the intellectual or physical abuse he was subjected to, no one could cause him to think something he didn't want to think. And he said, in every situation, this is important, in every situation, there's a space between the situation and how you respond to it. And he said, in that space, you make a choice of how you're going to respond.
If I were to ask you, why are you unhappy, sad, angry? You will most likely say it's because this happened or that happened. My husband left me, my wife left me, my husband cheated on me, my boss was mean, I lost my home, I'm in debt, whatever it is. That's why I'm feeling these emotions. But that isn't true at all. That's not why you're feeling those emotions. You see, you have something happening outside of you like that, and you have these emotions, and something happens between the two. Something here happens. And what that is you have a thought about what's going on outside of you. That thought is causing that emotion you are having. It's not what's happening. It's that thought about what's happening. Do you see, our thoughts are causing our suffering.
Most liberating thing is to realize I am experiencing the result of my thinking. It's not the external event. An example I often talk about is I'll say to someone, how would you feel if your husband forgot your birthday? And they go, I'd feel bad. I'd say, why? And they'll usually go, well, that means he doesn't love me. I said, what if you change the thought to someone who loves me forgot my birthday? What happens then? Well, now I feel concern and empathy and curiosity as opposed to feeling bad. And it's just shifting the thought. Thoughts are just choices you make. And we're mostly conditioned to think a certain way. But the fact is we always have a choice. And you can switch your experience like that if you just change the thought about it.
The average person has 60,000 thoughts a day. And for the average person, 80% of those are negative. Scientists call this the negativity bias. We inherited this from our caveman ancestors who had to remember the negative things or they would die, where the negatives stick to us and the positives slide off of us. If you get 10 compliments in a day and 1 criticism, what do you remember at the end of the day? The negative. You remember the criticism.
The latest research on memory says when you tell the story of that past experience, 50% of what people talk about isn't even the truth. They embellish it. They make stuff up to reinforce the emotion of why they haven't been able to change. To me, that means people are reliving a miserable life they didn't even have. Why? Because as long as they feel those emotions, then they at least can identify themselves to something in the past.
What we know from a neuroscience perspective is if you are consistently focusing on all of the reasons why you can't, all of the things that are hard, all of your circumstances, all of your past conditioning or all of your traumas from the past or even your present circumstances, and you keep repeating that over and over and over again, look at my results, look at this person, look at society, look at the government, look at all that stuff, you're actually by default, whether you know it or not, you are training your brain to make that the operating system, the default way of seeing the world and yourself.
In 1986, I was in a triathlon in Palm Springs, California. I was on the bicycling portion of the race, and there were 2 cyclists making a turn, and I was going to pass these cyclists, and so there was a police officer on the corner, and he was pointing to me, and he was waving me on to make this turn. And so I was going around the 2 cyclists. The problem was he had his back to the oncoming traffic. So as I passed these 2 cyclists, a 4-wheel drive Bronco going about 55 miles an hour, catapulted me out of my bicycle. And so I wound up breaking 6 vertebrae in my spine. And from the impact, one of the vertebrae, the arch where the spinal cord passes through, had broken like a pretzel. And so the typical surgery for this particular injury is what's called the Harrington rod surgery, where they cut off the back parts of your vertebrae. And in my case, it would be from the base of my neck to the base of my spine. And then they screw in these stainless steel rods, and when they screw them in, it acts as a cantilever to pull the spinal column off the spinal cord, and then they hope for the best. And so I had 4 opinions from 4 of the leading surgeons in Southern California. The prognosis, if I didn't have the surgery, was probably I'd never walk again. And so I think you weigh what you know against what you don't know, and you have to decide if you want to take a chance. And so I thought, well, the worst thing that could happen to me is I could be paralyzed, and I'm already in trouble. So I decided against the surgery, and I just made up my mind that, well, number one, I believe that there's an intelligence within us that gives us life. It keeps our heart beating and digesting our food and regulating hormones and blood sugar levels and body temperature. And I thought I wasn't going anywhere. I wasn't doing anything. I was laying face down, and my life went on hold. So I thought, well, I got a lot of time to connect to this intelligence, and if I could give it a plan, if I could give it a template, if I could give it a design, and I could be present with that design, and when I was complete with it, I would surrender it to this intelligence, and it knew how to do the healing way better than me. And then the second thing I said is I'm not going to let any thought slip by my awareness that I don't want to experience. Now, that sounds really easy, but this is where it all began for me. And so the problem was that for 6 weeks, I couldn't get my mind to do what I wanted it to do. I'd start off reconstructing my vertebrae by vertebrae. And then somewhere in the reconstruction process, I would start thinking about, should I sell my home? Should I sell my practice? And then I would see myself in a wheelchair, and I would catch myself putting my conscious mind on what I didn't want to have happen, and I'd stop and say, that's not the design I want to give this intelligence, and I'd start all over again. So somewhere between the 6th week and the 7th week, I went through the whole entire process without losing my focus and attention. And it just felt like I hit a tennis ball in the sweet spot. It just clicked. And then from that point forward, everything got easier. I was able to do what took me 3 hours or 4 hours to do it in 45 minutes. And I didn't know that I was increasing my ability to pay more attention or be present. And I was firing and wiring a lot of new circuits in my brain, and all of a sudden I started to install the neurological hardware, and the repetition started to create a software program. It got easier to do. It just became more simple, more automatic. Anyway, I was back on my feet in 10 and a half weeks, back running my practice and training for triathlons again at 12 weeks.
I write in this journal every single day, and I take the time to really think about what I'm grateful for. And I often just write whatever comes to mind first, and then from there I see how I'm feeling for that day. One day I was feeling really sad, and my mom had just passed away, actually. I'll tell you how far. It was about 6 months after my mom passed. It wasn't too long ago, actually. And I was having a sad moment, really, really missing her so much. And then I thought about everything that happened. And I really got deep into my thoughts and realized, wait a second, what are you thinking about right now that's making you feel this way? And I was crying, and I was really sad as I was journaling. And I said, you know what, now's a good time to write down all the things I'm grateful for during this whole time. And it's hard when you've had so many things happen in such a short period of time. It's hard to think about the things you're grateful for. But I found them. 1, I'm alive and healthy. Number 2, I have the best brother ever, an incredible support and best friend. Number 3, my dad is alive and is a lot better mentally than anyone expected. He's even walking a lot better too. 4, my mom lived until she was 80. I got to have her in my life for a long time. 5, I got the opportunity to experience what true unconditional love is from my mom. She loved me more than anyone on the planet. 6, she gave me the opportunity to grow and awaken. All our bumpy roads together allowed me to expand and forced me to see and experience a new way of seeing the world in every situation.
Show me how strong you are. Show me how strong you are. Push. Push. Oh my God! Oh, hey! He's really strong. Okay. Finally, Sonia's here, I think. Okay, hold on. Okay, give me a second. Okay, Daddy?
Yeah.
Okay.
34 hours after my mom died, my dad fell and broke his hip.
Good. Come in. Daddy's been waiting for you.
Daddy!
It's time.
Happy Father's Day! Hi, Daddy. ¿Cómo está, Papa?
Bene.
Yeah?
Good.
He was hospitalized for 2.5 months and had hip surgery. And the hardest part was that he suffered severe dementia after my mom died from all the trauma, from losing the love of his life of 60 years. And he loved her so much. Happy Father's Day, Daddy.
Oh, look at that. Gosh. Oh, no. Daddy, look at that.
Yeah, beautiful.
Okay, so you want a little piece, Daddy?
Little, like that.
Okay. Well, Daddy, it's okay. We have lots of cake. It doesn't matter. You don't have to finish it all.
Something's a little more difficult for me to talk about is what's currently happening. Last year, my wife of 33 years, my soulmate, the love of my life, my partner in life, I couldn't have done anything I've done to the success I have without her help. Or, when I wrote the book, Men Are From Mars, it's written by John Gray, not John Gray and Bonnie Gray. It should be John and Bonnie Gray. That book is half her, if not more her. She, a year ago, she was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. We didn't even know, ovarian cancer, quiet whisper cancer. You don't know it until it's stage 4, quite often. So we went through the whole process of her just turning into a skeleton, and my being with her the whole way. And so the grieving process there is just feeling huge amounts of guilt. I couldn't save her. I wasn't a perfect husband. All those things come up. Because during those 9 months, she said, John, it's not working. Our treatments are not working. And I feel like I'm a shell of who I am. And it was just such a loss. And we were hopeful. And then the day she died, it's just like waves of pain and loss and sorrow, just more than anything I've ever experienced,
I think what a lot of people are asking right now is, how do you go through the process of loss and grief? And the reason that I got so emotional is because I lost my mom last year, and she had mesothelioma, which is lung cancer due to exposure to asbestos, and we have no idea where she was exposed. And she really suffered a lot. And it was the exact same thing that you saw with your wife, where she deteriorated. It was really bad. I was there morning, noon, and night, every day, 7 days a week. And then she passed away. And I remember when I was journaling, I journal all the time, every morning. One of the things after she died was, I'm sorry, Mom, for letting you down. I failed you because you died. I didn't save you.
Right. We all feel that.
Which is so ridiculous.
Right, because we did everything we could, and we did more than anybody else. And I felt the same thing with my wife. It's the deepest guilt, because I didn't save you. I had the moment, which was so sweet, the day before she died, because we were feeling hopeful that I was doing all these things for her and getting all these treatments. And the doctor said to me, he said, John, she's not going to live past the weekend. And I'm like, what? So I went and told her, I said, the doctor thinks you're going to die this weekend. And then that's where she said, I'm so sorry. I tried. And I burst into tears. Oh, honey, it's not your fault, my fault. I'm so sorry. And then she said, John, you're my champion. You're my hero. You did everything you can do. You made me feel so loved and cared for. It's not you. And that touches me so deeply. It didn't heal it, but it's the starting point. But you have to just go with the emotions until finally you can start putting them into words. And when I started journaling out the words, I would go in the waves, coming back to wanting to be a better person. And what I noticed is I kept wanting to see less of the pictures of her in the stages of dying, where I could feel all this pain. I've lost her. And now the pictures of her when she was healthy and full are the ones that draw me to them. And I'm holding her now more as, so grateful for 33 years of my life with the amazing being who loved me and had so many great people who love her too.
The hardest thing I've ever had to overcome was to be at my mother's bedside watching her die. That was the most difficult thing I'd ever experienced. And it's a process. It's not something that you overcome right away. It's a process. And I had to anchor myself in the reality that we're just passing through here, that this is a transition that she's experiencing. At some point in the future, when I make my transition, we'll be together. But I remember one time, out of desperation, I asked God to take me. Don't take her. She's a good woman. We have the ability to choose the things that we focus on. What you focus on the longest becomes the strongest. So rather than focus on Mama's gone, I focus on the funny times we had together, the loving times, the engaging times. My mother had a great sense of humor. So I would always think about what would she say about this? And I laugh and I enjoy those moments because even death can't take those memories away from me.
Start to visualize the best picture you can build of your mother. I've done this because I was very close to my mother. My mother, God bless her, she was the best. In fact, I've got wonderful thoughts of mothers because of my mother. And when she passed, I just visualized her in a very good place. And that's what you want to do. You can build that in your mind. You can see your mother with a smile on her face. You can see her in a very good vibration, feeling as good as she's ever felt. There's a time in your life where your mother was very happy, and you could visualize her in that space. Hold that picture of your mother. Every time your mother comes to your mind, like that, build that picture. And I guarantee you, pretty soon, that's the only picture will come to your mind when you start thinking of your mother. You see, you're liable to go back and see her suffering. That's not a good picture. See her where there isn't any suffering. See her when she's in a very good place. And just go back to that state every time you think of her. And if you will do that over and over and over, every time the picture of your mother comes to your mind, you'll rid yourself of all the bad feelings about losing your mother. You haven't lost her at all. She's still here. You just don't see her physically, but you can visit with her anytime you want.
A lot of my success comes from telling the story of standing on top of my circumstance, standing on top of my challenge, my mess. A lot of my success comes from speaking about the story of resiliency. And so it's funny because my success was born out of the chaos. It was born out of the limiting beliefs and the doubt and the fear and the breakdown and the being broke and broken at the same time. And it hit a rock bottom when I had my son at 29. And when my son was 8 months old, I ran out of Pampers. And I went to the ATM and I put my debit card in and it said insufficient funds, $11.42. And I didn't know what to do. So I went home and I wrapped my son in a towel and I kept changing the towel for 2 days. And Sonia, it was on that second day when I looked down at my son, Jelani, and I put my hand on his little belly. And I knew he couldn't understand me, but I needed to say it out loud and I needed to hear myself. I said, Jelani, Mommy will never, ever be this broke again. Mommy will never, ever be this broken again. That was the day when I just made the decision.
So every one of us has a program in our subconscious mind, and it controls everything we do. When we get up in the morning, there's a pattern, and it's all being controlled by a program in our subconscious mind. That is why people that are absolutely brilliant lose. They graduate from university with all kinds of degrees coming out the end of a business card, and yet they can't win. Some of them can't even find work. They're broke all the time. How can people that are so brilliant be broke, and somebody else who is functionally illiterate become a multimillionaire? How does that happen? It happens because of the programming in our subjective mind.
Well, this is a real thing for me. because I have, as long as I can remember, had a dance around finances and money. And so lots of times I realized, well, I'm going into struggle. This is now becoming a struggle again. And I'm aware now the feelings of panic or tightness and the patterns of thoughts, they're not new. I haven't had a new thought or a new feeling around finances in as long as I can remember. When I'm going to my constricted place, it's the same menu. So, for one thing, I know that this is very old. I also know some of the circumstances. Do a little personal archaeology. And I know some of the circumstances around my life and the messages that I received as a very young boy, the kinds of struggle messages in my family, the kinds of feast or famine in my family, the kinds of conversation that was around finances in the family. And so I know the environment in which that little boy got his education around finances. It's a struggle, it's hard, it goes away, you can't hang on to it. I mean, I understand that stuff.
So, for example, there are a lot of different types of limiting beliefs depending on what area of your life that you're having difficulty with. So for money, for instance, it might be something like making money is hard, or I'll never be a millionaire, or I don't have enough education to be super successful, or I'm too old, or I'm too young to become successful, or if I become rich, I will be less spiritual. That's a big one in the spiritual world. And no matter what your beliefs are, all you have to look at are your results in that area. And once you look at your results, that's when you'll know whether you have limiting and negative beliefs around that area of your life. So if you're broke, like I was, I had major limiting beliefs around money. Right? So all you have to do is figure out what those limiting beliefs are. You'll be amazed that as soon as you reprogram your subconscious mind, you figure out what those limiting beliefs are and you change them to positive, empowering beliefs, your entire life will change in that area of your life.
I'm writing a book with someone, and there's this woman we're writing about who was an Olympic athlete, level. She could have been. And she wasn't performing at that level. And we couldn't figure out why, because she was incredibly talented. And when we did some limiting belief work with her, she went back to when she was really, really young, and she became aware that every time she would win a medal or a trophy, her mother would hide it. Because her mother said, when you win those and your brother looks at him, he feels bad. And so she then made the decision, when I win, other people feel bad. And so that was still limiting her. And so we all have those, and they're unconscious because we're not aware we have them. And so one of the most important things you need to do to become liberated and free is to identify, to bring into consciousness those limiting beliefs, and then we can redecide them. And it can sometimes be as simple as, oh, I can choose to believe this. Because I believe all beliefs are just choices. You know, you can choose to believe this or you can choose to believe that.
And I slow it down enough to realize that what is going on now that is upsetting me is this either the same as, or similar to, or familiar in some way to something from the past, very often the very, very distant past, sometimes back to my very earliest childhood days, boyhood days. Old hurts, old upsets, old wounds that are similar, and they get triggered. And I begin to have the same kinds of responses as I had then.
Close your eyes and then ask yourself, what is it I want? And then what do you feel when you think about not being able to create that? And most people, it's hopelessness, resentment, fear, whatever, resignation, whatever it might be. And then to scan your body from the head down to your toes, as you're thinking about that, what is the area of greatest tension, numbness, or pain. Because basically we've locked down on something. And so we're experiencing the pain of it or we're experiencing numbing out based on it. And so what happens then is we ask you to really look at what are all the aspects to really heighten your awareness of the sensation in your body. How wide is it? How tall is it? How thick is it? What color? Is it making a sound? Does it feel dry or wet? Does it feel solid or hollow? Does it feel warmer or colder than the rest of your body? So you're really focusing on a sensation that normally you ignore. And then we'll say, what's the feeling inside that? Is an emotion that's being blocked. And people can usually find out, they can experience it and they get aware of it. And so now, ride that back, the sensation and emotion, to the earliest time you can remember feeling that. Everybody goes back between 3 and 8 years old.
And I remembered being 6 years old and being abandoned by my family. By a whole story, I ended up being separated from my family for a week. I thought I would never see my mother again. And that memory came back, and I was able to role play, being that little child, expressing these feelings of abandonment, anger, why did this happen, why did they do this to me, my hurt, my fear, I'd never see my mother again, I'm all alone, I'm never gonna live, I can't do it myself. And then you collapse. That's what a little boy does. And he may not even be aware of that. These are all unconscious mechanisms. When you're crying, you don't have the words to articulate, so you don't remember any of this stuff.
And then it's like, where are you? What's happening? Either something's happening you don't want, like you're being ridiculed by your classmates or your parents are punishing you or whatever, or there's something you want you're not getting, like attention, love, approval, member of the team, whatever. And then we have you go back and look at what decision did you make at that time? I'm not worthy. It's not okay to ask questions. It's not okay to have wants and needs, whatever it might be. And then the next question is, I will ask to say, you, as the adult, go back and nurture that inner child.
I go to that little boy and I say, you know, I hear you. I see you. I love you. You're important to me. It's not what you do, but who you are that I love. That's not a message that I, as a little boy, received when I was a little boy. And so it's important for me to begin to reparent myself so that together, my little boy and I can be better equipped to meet the challenges of life, of adult life, so that as an adult, when things come up, I don't respond from old childhood injuries.
Writing out those feelings, then writing out the response I would want to hear from my mother after I got back to her, then exploring if I'd gotten that response, how would it have made me feel? And that's the healing process. Looking at what you felt that didn't get heard, then imagine having someone give you reassuring, loving statements, then asking yourself, how would that have made me feel? And that's who you truly are.
I can go into meditation, or I can journal him out. I journal out his part. What do you have to say? What do I have to say? He says, well, I'm really afraid because, you know, like Daddy says, just you can't rely on anything. This is what happens in the world. And I write it out and I see the scripts. And then I understand, what is it that you really want? And usually you ask the question, you ask the question, you ask the question, then what would that bring? Well, then what? I want it to be okay. And then how would you feel? Well, I'd feel there'd be less fighting, or I'd feel more secure, or I'd feel less fear, or I'd feel like we're not going to be homeless. And then how would that make you feel? And eventually it gets down to, I would feel safe. And then how would that make you feel? I would feel loved. Even as I say that, can you feel that? Yeah. I would feel loved. And now I can give that little boy that love right now. I love you. I hear you. You're important to me. I will never leave you. And every time I feel this thought and this feeling, I know it's you, and I will give you love.
And then I have them go into the future and become their 85-year-old wise self. And what advice would you give to the adults sitting here? And after that exercise, and I've done that with as many as 3,000 people at a time, and everybody gets it. Everybody gets something, everybody comes out. Some people cry a little bit because there's pain involved with that. But I hear from people all over the world that one exercise changed my life.
The last time I was here, we had our cars filled with all our stuff, and we were just leaving the house. And it was August 22nd, and he drove in his car in one direction, and I drove in the other direction. And that was the end of everything. But it's hard being here, because it was the hardest time in my life. It's where I lived. It's where I was walking up those stairs. It's where I hit rock bottom. So right now we're going to go ring the doorbell at the house that I used to live in. So let's see how that goes. I'm a little nervous. I don't think anyone's home, and I hear a dog in there. No? I'm excited and nervous all at the same time. I don't know how I'm gonna react when I go in there. Probably be very emotional. I'm not sure. Probably when I see the old bedroom. I don't know, it'll be interesting, but I'm just excited because they actually said yes to letting us inside and actually go in and see the house, so I'm excited. I'm kind of nervous. You're the sweetest daughter.
Thank you.
What a beautiful home.
Hi.
Hi, so nice to meet you. Yolanta.
Yolanta, yes.
Do you go by Yola?
Yes.
And what's your name again?
Monica.
Monica, so nice to meet you. I'm Sonia Ricotti, and
nice meeting you.
And from the looks of things, it looks like the house bounced back big too.
Yes. So you guys, the house and you yourself.
Everyone, yay. First of all, thank you for allowing me into your home. This is for you. It's a little gift.
Oh, thank you very much.
For your kindness. Okay, so now the magic is upstairs. I get to go into the bedroom. Wow. And so this is the room.
That's my oldest son's room. How do you feel about it?
Wow. That was the window right there. Never thought I'd be back here. And I'm really happy that the house was sold to you.
We had to fight for it.
Did you really?
Oh,
what happened? Tell me.
There was like a 10 offers on the house.
Yeah. No.
Yeah, and then they really raised the price of the house.
Did they?
Yeah.
It happened exactly the way it was supposed to happen, right? And it happened so you can get the house.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we're happy here.
And I'm happy you're happy.
I feel sorry that what happened to you, but
you know what?
Happy end, okay?
Yes, exactly. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
I
That
really
was a
appreciate it. Again,
experience.
another big hug. Lots of hugs today.
Yes.
Thank you. And say thank you so much to your family as well.
Yes.
Wow, that was amazing. It was really amazing. I almost feel like I've had closure now. You know, such a beautiful family, what they did to the home. I'm happy the home went to them. It's great.
So Rhonda, you have done so much. What really amazes me is that you've accomplished so much, but you have come from some really difficult circumstances.
Nobody would be shocked if I was drunk on the side of the road. You know, everybody would be like, well, you know what happened, right? And I think we can either use our stories to keep us down, or we can use our stories to lift us up. And for 20 years, I used my story to beat myself up. And the story you're referring to is the big one in my life, which I was 14 years old, and I grew up in a little tiny town in Upper Michigan. It was Father's Day, and my father, well, I hadn't seen him for a while. My parents were in the middle of separation, and he was coming over to take us out to Sunday brunch. My mother just made a beautiful new dress for me. It was white, cotton. She made a beautiful scarf with black polka dots, and I'm all dressed up, and I couldn't wait to go. And I can hear my father walk in. And my father starts yelling, come on, come on, come on, because that's what fathers do. And so me and my mother start walking through the house to get to the outside to get in the car, and my father says, I'm gonna go get my coat. And as he opens his trunk and goes to grab his coat, I notice that he hasn't grabbed a coat. He's grabbed a gun. And he starts screaming at my mother, you made me do this, this is your fault, you made me do this. And he fires. And I start screaming, Dad, what are you doing? What are you doing, Dad, stop. And he takes the gun, and he cocks it again, and he looks at me, and I look at him, and I blink, and he blinks, and I am absolutely convinced that I am about to die. And instead of shooting me, he shot my mother through the abdomen, cocked the gun again, shot her a second time. The bullet goes through her abdomen, out the car horn this time. And then my father just slid right next to me, literally 2 feet away, put the gun to his head and fired. Now, I am the sole witness to my father murdering my mother and committing suicide, and I am dead inside. Now, I don't know what you would do, but what I did is I blame myself. I mean, I was the only one there that could have stopped it. I didn't even kick my father in the shins. I didn't grab the gun and, shake it. I didn't push it away. I didn't run in front of my mother. I didn't even run in front of my mother, so I had so much shame and so much guilt that in that moment, I absolutely had no right to be happy again. And so for the next 20 years, I became an alcoholic, tried to kill myself 3 times, got 3 DUIs, went to jail, and what really got me back into my body and back into my life was forgiveness. And forgiving my father was actually the first person I forgave.
People who are happy, they have learned how to let go in their hearts. They understand that forgiveness doesn't mean that you're condoning the other person's behavior. It doesn't mean that you even have to ever talk to the other person. It means in your own heart, you have found forgiveness.
I always say to people, if you're not forgiving someone, you're holding on like this. Then something comes by that someone wants to give you, the universe, a person, you can't receive it because your hands are busy. So you have to let go and become open so you can receive.
When a person starts doing the work, the inner work, and they trade anger or resentment or impatience or envy or pain or suffering or depression for an elevated emotion, or they work on overcoming that emotional state, their ability to lower the volume to that emotion will naturally cause them to take their attention off that person or that condition. And we could say then, they're taking their power back. And that's available energy that they could use to create a new future. In other words, how much of your creative energy is tied up in guilt how much of your creative energy is tied up in suffering? That's available energy that you could use. So then it makes perfect sense then when a person overcomes the emotion that keeps them anchored to the past, the side effect of that is forgiveness.
What you're doing is you're literally setting yourself free. You're cutting the strings to the past. You are cutting their hold on you. Because how many times does that unforgiveness make decisions for you? And that unforgiveness tightens your heart and closes down your heart. It closed my heart down, right? And I couldn't love. Sure, I had sex, but I didn't love. Didn't even know what love was, right? So in order for me to become who I wanted to be, I had to forgive.
But when you truly free yourself from the chains of those emotions that keep you anchored to the past, and you feel great, the moment you start feeling elevated, you start feeling a love for life, a joy for existence, inspired about your future, you've taken all of your attention off that person, and the side effect is you don't have to try to forgive. You freed yourself, and you freed them, and now you're building your own electromagnetic field. You're building your own field to heal.
And there are many forgiveness practices out there, but the one that I use the most is a practice called Ho'oponopono. It's based on an ancient Kahuna Hawaiian tradition, Ho'oponopono. And all you do is in your heart, you feel these 4 phrases. And the 4 phrases are, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you. I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you. So you get an image of the person or situation that you feel angry towards, and the person doesn't even need to still be alive. It could have happened years and years ago. And I like to put my hand on my heart and close my eyes and imagine myself sending those 4 phrases out towards that person or situation. I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you. 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes. And then also get an image of yourself and send yourself that love and that forgiveness. And what I've seen is miracle upon miracle upon miracle happening when people do that particular practice.
So I created this exercise for myself, and I actually still have the first time I did it. I took a piece of paper and I put a line down the middle, and on the left-hand side I wrote my dad's name. And on the right-hand side, I wrote, I'm willing to forgive you. And so this is how the exercise goes. Dad, screw you for killing Mom. I'm willing to forgive you. How could you abandon us like that? I'm willing to forgive you. Who do you think you are that you did this? I'm willing to forgive you. I know you are weak. I'm willing to forgive you. And you just keep going one line at a time. And what that does for me is it honors your feelings, but focuses on your intention of what you really want to do. Because I think too many people cut off their feelings to forgive, and then they put those feelings in a little tiny box and say, I don't ever have to feel those again. But you are going to feel those again, because forgiveness isn't one time. I mean, not only did I have to forgive my mother and father just for the deaths and for the murder-suicide, but I had to forgive my mother and dad again when I got married for not being there. And then I had to forgive them again for when I got divorced. And then I had to forgive them again for not being there when I found out I was infertile. Like I had to forgive them over and over, and I still forgive them at times, right? There's something comes up in my life, and I'm like, why aren't you here for a second, right? And I'm like, I forgive you, right? So forgiveness is not a one-time event. So allowing yourself to have the feelings that are really present and honoring those, but at the same time, staying true to your intention. I'm willing to forgive you. Doing that back and forth, and you do it till you're exhausted. I did it till I was exhausted, because you're working through to the other side. If you do not forgive, your energy will be stifled, your energy will be stuck, your energy will not flow, and you'll wonder why you wake up in the morning not feeling like you want to be alive. So forgiveness, for me, is one of the keys to a life force, a strong life force.
Whatever happened in the past is in the past. It doesn't even exist anymore. The only place the past exists is in your mind. Think about it. The past only exists in your mind. It is no longer happening to you right now. It's a memory. but yet we keep it alive in our minds as if it's still happening. And the way we react in our body and how we feel, it's as if it's still happening. It's time to let it go.
What we put our attention on grows stronger in our lives. There's a beautiful story about a Cherokee, Native American Cherokee elder. And one day he's sitting with his grandson, and he tells his grandson that we each have a battle going on inside of us. And it's a battle between two wolves. The one wolf is the wolf of anger and unhappiness and negativity and resentment. And the other wolf is the wolf of love, of happiness, of compassion, of gratitude. And the grandson gets big eyes and says, well, grandfather, if this battle is going on, which wolf wins? And the grandfather says, the wolf that you feed the most.
Start writing down those thoughts. I can't. It's too hard. I'll never change. It's this person's fault. I want to do this against this person. I want to act in that way. Start noticing how you speak. In what ways? Write it down. How you act. Look at the emotions. Say, what is the emotion I feel the most every day? Let's attack that and become so conscious of those states of mind and body that you don't go unconscious, and take time and study that. And the research shows if you keep doing that, you'll catch the thought before it comes. You'll notice how that emotion's starting to come, and you'll be able to stop it. Now, you're no longer the program. You're the consciousness changing the program.
If somebody would just stop when they're feeling that way or thinking those negative thoughts and took 6 deep breaths in through their nose, in 4 or 5 seconds in, and then as they breathe out, if they breathe out through their mouth like they're breathing out through a straw for about 6 or 7 seconds, doing that just 6 times deactivates the stress, anxiety, fearful part of their brain, and it goes from being the reactive part of the brain to the calm and respond part of the brain.
Anytime you're feeling stressed out, bring yourself back to the present moment. Because I could tell you right now, usually when you're stressed out, usually when you're angry, usually when you're sad, you're living in the past or in the future. You're not in the present. So it's important anytime you're feeling stressed, bring yourself back to this moment right now, because this is the only moment we have. Even when the future arrives, it's the present. It never arrives in the future. It's the present. That doesn't mean you don't plan for the future, but you're planning it in the present. This is the only moment we have right now. This present moment is your life. Everything else is a thought. Our minds are causing all our suffering. Shift your mind and you will shift your life. I just arrived in Sedona yesterday, and I'm here because this is the place I go to anytime I want to just get away and connect to my higher self, especially when I'm going through some stressful times in my life. So I decided to come here and just take in the beautiful energy of Sedona. And I'm hoping that I'm going to get to see Robert, the flutist. And he's the one that I love the most because he hands out these beautiful hearts, and he plays the flute, the Native American flute, and he climbs all the way to the top of the canyon and plays there, and it's infused with Reiki, and it just, every time I listen to it, it just helps me get to a very deep state of inner peace. And so I'm hoping that he's going to be there today. It's been a really long journey. A lot of things happened. And I've grown a lot. I've come to realize that things will always happen in life. Always. Including death. All these things happened and they seemed so big at the time. Nothing compares to losing someone you love. Everything else seemed really small. And you don't know that until it happens. I think this film really helped me so much with the passing of my mom and dealing with the passing of my mom. It was very healing for me. It was a beautiful journey. And almost every day I think about what my mom used to always say to me. Life is like a staircase. Sometimes you go up, and sometimes you go down. And life doesn't have to be perfect to be wonderful. And I know my mom is still with me, and will always be with me. And so having had the opportunity to interview so many people, I've realized that so many people have gone through so much, and they've taken the hardship and turned it into something wonderful. And anyone can do that.
And there's a quote I love: in life, you will always be faced with a series of God-ordained opportunities, brilliantly disguised as problems and challenges. When we look at ourselves on the other side of those problems and those challenges, that we grow mentally and emotionally and spiritually.
This is the thing you get when you have white hair. You have enough of these experiences, they call it wisdom, is that everything that I ever thought was a problem turned out to be a gift.
Think about a time in your life where things just were falling apart. Something, one thing that was falling apart where you thought it was like absolutely the worst thing in your life, whether you broke up with somebody that loved you or they broke up with you, whether you had a failure or an embarrassment. And then after a period of time, you look back and you actually are thankful for that thing.
And those are the life-defining moments often after tragedies. And so many successful people, for example, there's studies on this. People who have achieved great heights and success, making their dreams come true, often had huge losses before.
You know, I remember somebody telling me once while I was struggling to get out of my, muck and mire. She looked at me and said, "Rhonda, how low you've gone is how high you'll rise."
You know, I often ask in my audiences, how many of you have had a tragedy happen to you in your life? Everybody raises their hand, some kind of a crisis, something that they don't want to have had happen. Everybody raises their hand. And then I say, 2 years later, how many of you felt that that thing that happened ended up being one of the great blessings in your life for some reason? You learned some beautiful lesson or something beautiful came from that. Do you know that everybody raises their hand?
And the same passion that you've had for your suffering in your past, you have to have a greater passion for your future. People who heal are just have a commitment that their love for life has become greater than their fear of death, and they turn the battleship around. But it takes time.
You have to realize you've survived everything that ever happened to you. You would not be here if you hadn't survived everything that ever happened to you, which proves to you you can survive this.
So one thing I would share with anybody who's going through a really, really hard, tough time right now is hang in there. It'll all be okay.
Hi, welcome back. How did you like the film? I hope that you loved it. You know, now I wanted to spend a couple of minutes with you just to give you an overview summary of everything you just learned in the film and breaking it down into 3 simple steps. And the third step I'm going to spend a little more time on only because we only touched on it in the film, but it is very important that you know this. And by the way, I know that many of you already know I have an unsinkable course. And so if this is something you're interested in, I am going to tell you about it after I finish these 3 steps. So just bear with me, all right? Just bear with me and I will tell you about it. We actually have an exclusive VIP edition that we are releasing right now. So I wanted to let you know about that. But first, let me explain to you what these 3 steps are. So make sure you have a pad and pen and write these down. And so the first step is reprogram your conscious mind. And what that means is your thoughts. Your thoughts are causing your suffering. You've heard that in the film over and over again, how what you think actually affects how you feel, right? So nobody can take control over what you're thinking, only you can. And so once you start becoming aware of your thoughts, then once you realize that a lot of them are negative thoughts, most of our thoughts throughout the day are negative, once you start shifting, especially when you're going through a difficult time, once you start shifting them into positive, empowering thoughts, your whole world will shift. Your whole world will shift. And I'll explain why in step number 3. It'll make sense. So of course, your thoughts, shift your thoughts and you will shift your life. And so start becoming really keenly aware of how you're feeling. Anytime you're not feeling good, ask yourself this question. Write this question down. I'm not feeling good right now. What am I thinking right now? And then you start becoming aware of what you're thinking. And then you realize, well, no wonder I'm not feeling good. I can't believe I'm telling myself that. And immediately you can consciously shift your thought, right? They're all stories, by the way, just so you know. We make up stories all the time. And so these situations happen in our lives, and then we create a story around it, and they turn into thoughts. So if you're going to be making up stories anyway, you might as well turn them into positive stories, all right? So just pay attention to your thoughts. Reprogram your conscious mind. The second step is reprogram your subconscious mind, right? We talked a lot about the subconscious mind. We talked a lot about beliefs, because the beliefs we have actually determine what action we take and how we see the world, and what we end up achieving or not achieving in life. And so it's really important to uncover what your limiting beliefs are. Get into that subconscious mind, because those beliefs are what are causing or sabotaging your success in that area of your life that isn't working. So again, first step is reprogram your conscious mind. Second step is reprogram your subconscious mind. And it's about really uncovering what your limiting beliefs are. Then what you do is, once you know what those are, then you just shift those into positive, empowering beliefs. And then everything will shift in your life. And then the third step is elevate your vibrational frequency to a state of love, peace, joy, and gratitude. You heard a lot about the importance of forgiveness and letting go of the past and you know, all these things in the film. And the reality is, if you can block those into elevating your vibrational frequency. And what does that mean? Well, that has everything to do with the law of attraction. So if you're wondering what the law of attraction is, it basically means like attracts like, because everything is made out of energy. Like everything is made out of energy. My hair is made out of energy, your computer is made out of energy, your thoughts are made out of energy. And they have found that like energy attracts like energy. If you were to look into a very powerful microscope, you will notice and see like energy attracting like energy. And so if everything's made out of energy and like energy attracts like energy, if you have negative thoughts, feelings, it's all energy, you will attract more negative things, people, situations into your life. Right? So that's why you want to really pay attention and do what you need to do to get yourself to a high vibration state. You want to get yourself to a state of love, peace, joy, and gratitude. Why? Because those are the highest vibrational frequency states. And the crazy part is this. There is actually a way you can get to a state of love, peace, joy, and gratitude like that. And I want you to know that they are in my unsinkable bounce back system, which I will tell you about very shortly. They're called AM and PM activations, and all you have to do is listen to them, and it immediately shifts your vibrational frequency to a state of love, peace, joy, and gratitude. So that way you can project that out there, and you will attract back positive things, people, and situations into your life. Imagine that you reprogram your conscious mind, you reprogram your subconscious mind, and you elevate your vibrational frequency to a state of love, peace, joy, and gratitude. Imagine what your life would look like. Everything would change. Everything would shift. You'll start attracting all these amazing things into your life, and you'll feel good all the time. You see how powerful all the teachings in this film are? You can completely transform your life by mastering those 3 steps. And that's why I have the Unsinkable Bounce Back System 2.0, an exclusive VIP edition for you today. This is something I have never offered before. It's strictly for this film release, and you will be completely blown away when you see what it's all about and what you'll be getting and how it will transform your life. So why don't we get into that right now? The Unsinkable Bounce Back System 2.0 is a transformational program. It is something that will help you bounce back bigger and higher than ever. And what's great about it is it's super easy. It's a step-by-step process, and anyone can do it. It doesn't even take long to do either. You're gonna see that there are lots of amazing tools in there that you can't get anywhere else. Now, before I get into the actual details of the program, I want to share something with you. It's a video from Bob Proctor, and he's actually one of my biggest supporters in this work. Here's what he has to say.
Hello there, I'm Bob Proctor. You know, for the past 58 years, I've worked in the self-help business, helping people decide where they want to go and how to get there. Every now and then, something goes wrong and we lose. We find ourselves out of the game. We wonder, can we get back? Well, you can. There's a definite path that you can follow. Sonia Ricotti's unsinkable bounce back system is the best in the world. She's been at it a long time. She's experienced what you have to experience. She knows how to come from being down and winning in a big way. I'm going to recommend that you get this and you study it like a scientist. And I guarantee, I don't care how bad the situation is, like that, it'll start to change. It doesn't change overnight, but it starts to change overnight. And it'll keep going if you'll use the system. Do exactly what she tells you. She knows what she's talking about. And her system works. Get it and put it to work. It's the Unsinkable Bounce Back System by Sonia Ricotti. It is the best. You know, I've been in the business a long time. I'm not going to ruin my reputation endorsing something that isn't the best. Hers is the best. You get it and use it. And if you see me, you thank me for recommending it.
So that was Bob Proctor. Thank you so much, Bob. I love Bob. I don't know, you probably love him too, but he's incredible. He is one of the top personal development teachers on the planet. So I'm so blessed to have his support in all of my work. So let's talk about this program. What do you get in the Unsinkable Bounce Back System 2.0? Well, first of all, you start up